and I just watched it a couple days ago,
Okay.
and very interesting. I'd really fascinated to know where the inspiration came from and kind of the whole journey of getting it made.
Yeah. So the inspiration, it's I would you always try to, as a writer of screenplays, you always try to come up with ideas that are um, unique or haven't been done before, non-derivative, as they would say. So I had the idea of an immortal society, and then it was how could I turn that around? And it was, well, what if one man wanted to die or one person wanted to die? And then it just kind of grew from there. Um, it's kind of how most of my ideas work. You kind of get an idea, and then if you keep coming back to it, it starts to grow on its own. So that was kind of really how it went. I didn't go out with an intention like to do one thing or another. It kind of just kind of let it grow in a sense.
It has some deep philosophical questions in it, basically about if there's a safety net in your life, if you could not die, then would you lose your humanity? So when I was watching it and kind of thinking about basically what you're putting into it, I would imagine that that you read philosophy or that you had some of those thoughts going into it, or was that something that developed as you wrote
No, I think that came into play early on, the philosophical questions. And it was meant as more of a discussion or to bring up these issues, because I think the scenario could play out down the road. And it good sci-fi also asks us questions about our current condition as human beings. And I thought that we could work both what's going to happen with what is currently happening in our daily lives now. So yeah, definitely there were, there was a lot of philosophical um, points to be addressed.
Yeah, and as coming from for me, I don't know if Ryan told you, right, for a faith site,
Okay.
basically spirituality in film, and there
Mm,
are tones of that as well because it comes with an idea of free will, uh, human nature, uh, basically the vulnerability of the human condition, the ticking of the clock, so to speak.
right.
And if there was no end at the ticking of the clock, then what kind of people would you be? The basically taking out the whole process. Uh, you
Exactly.
know,
Right.
this is the journey we go on. Well, what if the journey doesn't end? And so I was fascinated with that too. Um,
Yeah.
Go
Then
ahead.
what? I mean, then what? I mean, what is your purpose? So I was always, as a kid, I probably thought too much about um, maybe adult type themes, like, why am I here? What's my
Right.
purpose? And there were a lot of reasons for that. But, um, you know, I think that if you don't have a purpose, you can wander. And I think that everyone has a purpose. And then you get into the question of, where does that purpose come from? And if you take away death, then it kind of throws it like way up in the air. I mean, do you still have a purpose and an
Right.
importance, in a sense, a mission in life and something to fulfill? So, so yeah, I think that was definitely important. Your point was spot on.
And one of the things I would note too is, and I don't remember your film dealing with it that much, but I believe part of the process for us is that we grow up and then we go on our way out. We pass everything on to another generation,
Yeah.
and it's their turn now. So what happens when we don't give up our turn?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
so I think those are all really fascinating questions I haven't seen explored in a film like that before.
Oh, that's interesting. And I think what's really cool for me is to talk to someone who's seen the film and take some different aspects of it that I didn't even consider. I think that's really like it's kind of it's fun. It's interesting to me because film writing, that's still an art form, and it still goes into an audience's eye for interpretation, like a painting on a wall. So you can pull things that the artist never intended to be there, but it's personal to you. So I've heard from people I've talked to brought up more than a few things that I didn't even consider, or points
Right.
that were made. So not that I'm not that smart, maybe, not to feel more dumb. That's not the point. It's just a matter of like having something that is living in a sense, and to make a film or write a story that is us has its own life. It's not controlled by me. And so you enable the story to kind of breathe and be to go where it's going to go. And sometimes it would go in these places so that it means things to people in the audience that I didn't even pick up on. So I think that's pretty cool. What it means to be human, I talked a lot about with the actor who plays Logos. He's from England, and a lot of his friends, I think he was about 22 or so when he made the film, and a lot of his friends were struggling with a lot of different things, and it struck him in terms of what, again, like, what are we supposed to do here? What does it mean to be a human being? And right now, you can see with technology, and there are people actively trying to extend life to that point of immortality, and
Right.
they consider the body a machine, that it is soulless, and a machine that could be just fixed and go to a shop and tweak to continue to run. And the pilot actually says something along those lines. So, where does what is that going to do? And I think another point is to the experience of being human, and how is it going to change it? I mean, you're going to start implanting things in our brain. Is that a truly human experience as God intended, our existence to be? So it's really just I don't have all the answers, it's just things
Right.
I would think about, which is maybe a little strange, but yeah, I mean, I think about these things. I've thought about them for a while. And then when I read, I would read things about, guys in Silicon Valley just really pushing the envelope on this, or
Right.
implant. You can get into, choosing the sex of the unborn, tweaking that to give them certain physical characteristics. Is that what life's supposed to be? And in the end, maybe, you do end up with a world where people are kind of all the same and look the same and have no real personality, and kind of just glide through life endlessly like a loop. So those are some things.
Plus we are defined, people, the human experience is also defined by suffering,
Yes.
to
Oh
an
yeah,
extent.
that's right. That is correct.
And
Yeah.
and grief is a part of suffering. And in a world where you don't lose anybody, uh, you don't come to the edge of that. You don't say goodbye to anybody. So yeah, it's fascinating. It's really, I mean, you could explore, so it could just keep on going, the conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are a number of, yeah, I did try to layer things, and I think there are a number of different topics in the subtext and beyond. And yeah, I did make, that is one thing that I do not want to experience. I'm not happy about having to experience, but I agree 100% we're meant to suffer. And grief is something that the pilot focused on specifically. I mean, he brought back his dead daughter to be his conscience in a sense, because he couldn't deal with it, and he wanted to save everyone from what might be one of the most difficult
Right.
stresses in, suffering parts of a human experience, is to lose your loved one. And so I thought that, as to bring that up as a question. But what always comes back to is if somebody has that power to do that, well, what does he do with it? You know, it's always good intentioned, or like on paper, it might look good intentioned. In his own mind, it would be good intentioned, but where does it go from there? And is that the right way? And then again, is what is lost along the way. So all those moments of humanity, and mortality are lost if there's a more immortal world. All those kind
Yeah.
of beautiful spots, which, you know, the character kind of realizes when he becomes mortal. You know, he wants to experience it all. I think one of the other lines that means a lot to me is that he wants to make decisions with consequence, and you know, we all have to do that, you know, and it's again part of living.
Right.
And where they are, there's no decisions with consequence, and I don't think you're living unless you're doing that. So
Right. Um, well, I'll just speak practically. How long ago was this? Was the movie filmed?
we filmed it at let's see, I think it was December of 2018, and then we came back in September of 2019. So it was two different shoots, and then just got released. Yeah,
Okay,
typical,
great.
typical years and years of,
Oh yeah, yeah.
of
Yeah,
waiting.
it's always interesting me to talk to people because for us the experience is brand new.
Mhm.
So we're
Oh
talking to
yeah,
you about something that happened 4 years ago, really. So you have to kind of go back into that mode of, and like if you're an actor, I see actors do it all the time where, okay, it's this junket for this movie. And this is a movie I did 4 years ago. And then next week I'm going to do a junket for a movie I did 2 years
right.
ago, all that. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really fascinating how the industry works. You want to talk just, I'm not going to keep you long. I was
I'm good.
interested
Whatever, however much you would
about
like to talk.
having,
I'm good. I'm good.
I was interested about having you having Sean Gunn in it and
Okay.
his role and how he came to be a part of the project. He's the the most recognizable face in the crowd. So you want to
Yeah,
talk a little bit about working with him?
sure. Sean was, you know, completely pleasure to work with, easy, professional, and I like to, you know, in my limited experience of directing, I like to kind of, you know, try to hire the right actors and kind of let them go with the role. Um, and I thought, you know, when we talked, he understood the role really well, and we came at it kind of from a point of view of like you know, a Steve Jobs kind of recluse. And you know, he kind of picked his own wardrobe. He felt comfortable in that setting, and then you know, he was really just, you know, a pleasure. I thought he added a lot. I thought he was great. I thought how he um, presented the character really, for me, worked. It's what we were looking for, but even better. And I think that's what's so cool. Like again, when you have really strong actors, they can take the character that's written and bring it to life. And again, it bring it to life in some ways that you didn't really see in the word. You know, in the written word, you can see it
Right.
come to life. And I thought he did that so well. And he's just a really really easygoing good guy. So it was cool. It was,
Yeah, that's really cool. It's cool to see him. I know there's some jokes about the roles that his brother gives him in his movies. Like less desirable, the weasel, and all that. So
yeah, you know, it was funny when he's on the steps talking to Amanda, his daughter in the film. We're like, "Are you comfortable squatting?" He's like, "Oh, I do that all the time. I do that for like hours on end."
yeah,
As it's Rocket, right? The
yeah,
raccoon. Yeah, so he's the physical part of that, and he would squat all the time. So he's really comfortable squatting. It was pretty funny.
right, yeah.
I wouldn't
Don't
have thought
ask.
of that, but yeah,
Yeah,
it was pretty funny. Physically, he was good.
yeah. Don't ask me to squat for that long.
No, I mean, I wouldn't be able to move after that. He would just like kind of tip me over and let me lay down. I'd stretch out and then get up. You know,
Yeah,
it's that would have been pretty funny. But yeah, he was great. We were. It's hard to get. It's a process to get actors, especially actors that are well known when you have an independent film. So it took a while to figure out who would work best. And I thought the decision, it was brought to me by the producers, and I was like, that's great. Let's see what he can do. He was so easy to work with. Really, it was really a pleasure. Not he was very experienced, obviously. So it was great. He was great for sure.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on the movie. I hope you get more feedback on it, and it continues to do big things and spark a lot of questions,
Yeah,
and a lot of discussion.
I think that if I could, a couple other things I was going to mention. So when
Sure.
I met a couple, actually with a special effects company, and the owner of the company had, he came from a faith background, I'd say, and he said to me that he loved the questions that were asked and left unanswered. And I think that
Right.
that's how I see this as, and again, it's him, someone I just met analyzing something that, was written, but, it's a great way for me to kind of look at the project. I don't, again, I don't have all the answers, but I do believe that, my faith's important to me. I tried to make a film that was wider in scope. It's to reach a wider audience. And there are faith questions in there, obviously, but I think it's more than that. I think you can connect on the film to the film. You know, even if you're the religious part is a part,
Right.
and then there's the other stuff going on, and so it's been interesting getting different types of reactions from people that come from a faith background and not, but they still kind of pull something from it, and that's cool. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, Tony, I'm 50 years old,
Okay.
and when I was 10 years old or 15 or whatever, let's say my first half of growing up in faith in the church,
Yeah.
it was really important for everybody to have all the answers, and there was no discussion about. And it seemed like probably around my 20s or 30s that there was a flip switch, that there is a mystery to this, and there's supposed to be a mystery to this.
Yeah.
But there is I loved how somebody put it, there's a mystery, but there's a substance to that mystery.
Yeah.
It's not a nothingness.
Right.
It's a solid mystery that we're not able to comprehend, but we just have to trust. And that's where faith comes in,
Right.
So I heard somebody get up once and said, well, I don't, when I was younger, God took my grandmother away and I didn't understand it, but I understand it now. And I felt like, well, we don't have to understand it. We're not required to understand,
Right.
that there's just a mystery that we still journey through, and we hold to faith in the middle of the mystery, but thank God we don't have to figure it out.
That's really, thank you for saying that and sharing that, because that I hadn't thought of it that way, and that's helpful. I mean, I think being able to talk and share these kinds of things, it's a really valid points, and the other point you made about meant to suffer. I mean, Jesus is on the cross. I mean, he suffered
Right.
through the passion. I mean, this is something that he did, and nothing that I'm going to go through is going to be worse than that. And
Right.
I mean, what else is there? And so it's not going to be a bowl of bowl of candy, your life.
Yeah.
I remember having friends that parents had a lot of money, and one in particular, and he couldn't wait just to like be on vacation, and he just wanted to sit around, and that's the thing. I mean, what's the point to that? I mean, of course you need to relax. You need to on Sunday, right? Sundays, right? I mean, you need to,
Right. Yeah.
Rest. But is your life meant to be spent on the beach, sunning yourself? So I don't think
No.
you're
Yeah.
contributing to the
Right.
humanity as a whole, to the human experience, and to the progress that gets made in numerous ways. So it's just interesting to me again about kids and um, again I thought I've been thinking about these questions for a while, and I think especially when I was an adolescent and late teens, I'd say, and it's just like you feel a bit lost, and um, when you start wondering, like, and it's all there. It's all kind of,
Right.
if you look, you will, you'll find it. It's right in front of you. And it's also like to me, I remember having someone explain like a psychological trauma would be like submerged in you, and but it's always trying to come out. So it's like layers and layers, and there's like a trauma, whatever that is. It's always trying to come out, and your subconscious is trying to bury it. And I think like one of the ways I thought about and tried to incorporate it into the film was like, that's your soul. It's there. Its purpose is there. Your gifts are there, and it's buried sometimes, and it's buried by uh, society, your environment, and your family, can be,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's what can get you off the course, and you have to kind of come back to it and kind of let it go and let it come out and then go in that direction. But it's hard, I think, for me too. Like, it was hard to kind of come back and peel off those layers and say, okay, I I I feel like this is the right thing for me, and whatever that is, I trust it, and I have
Right.
faith in it. So sorry, I'm
Yeah.
talking too much, but
No, no, that's your job. I talk way too much in my interviews. I promise you. I'm very aware of that. I'm very chatty.
no, you're
The
doing
other final point I wanted to make, and
sure.
I'll let you go. I don't want to. Is and we didn't. I did. I talked about there is a purpose in suffering, and that's part of the journey. Another important aspect of it is there is a fellowship in suffering.
Yeah,
There is a community in suffering that the people of this movie, if they did not experience suffering, did not experience the deepness of community
yeah,
that goes along with suffering.
yeah,
Because if you could think to your own life of anybody you've lost, or like for me, people I've lost, the people that come alongside you
yeah,
in those valleys, and maybe they're experiencing the same thing or they're not, but they identify with it or they did, there's just a difference in your relationship as you go through that suffering than everything being a-okay, like you said, on vacation all the time,
right,
enjoying life. There's a community when you're not enjoying life that is a
yeah,
deep, rich, unbreakable sometimes bond. There are people that were there for me that I'll never forget.
right,
There are people that I just visited their parents as they were, dying. And to this day, I mean, to this day, they're like, oh, I'll do anything for you. You were there, when my dad was dying or whatever. And it really didn't mean as, I didn't think it meant as much. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So,
No, I thank you. That's again, boy, that's great. And I'm so happy that we got a chance to talk here, because a number of the things that you shared with me, they mean a lot, and I'm going to hold on to those things, and I appreciate
oh,
that. Um, I really do. It's not the way you typical interviews go, I guess, but
yeah, yeah,
I think that it's relevant to the story, and those things are in here. Suffering was one of the main things he wanted to get rid of, because it is so overwhelming. But like you said, boy, they never had that experience of the community and that real
right,
emotional closeness. That is part of the human experience. So whether look, you can be scared of it, but it's going to happen, and
right.
and how you react when it happens. You can run away, or you can be there for somebody, right? And you can share in it. And I think that's so beautiful, really. Really was. Thank you. That was really nice. I appreciate that.
Well,
I'm
oh
still
well, it's a pleasure to talk to you. And I mean, I'm still just as aware. I've done a bunch of interviews, but I'm aware that it's such an opportunity when you see a movie or see a piece of art that speaks to you. Not everybody has the chance to sit down and talk to the creator. So I know I'm blessed today to get
Oh,
the
thank you.
chance to
That's very
talk
nice.
with you about it.
That's very nice to hear. It's just, the film is, I don't, it's not about me. This is just, it's a story, and the story just kind of has its own little place, and how it,
Right.
hopefully it, it does what it's meant to do. If it reaches people, I think that's great. It's really nothing about anything I did or anything like that. It's a story, and the story is, it's
Right.
Carlos Santana. I said this to the actor actually once. He's always really cool. Carlos Santana, you know who he is, right? Guitar player,
Uh-huh.
right? And so he had said I interviewed him, and they asked him, like, so what do you like, what's inspiration? Like, how does that, I did believe it was about inspiration. So like, if something just happens to him as he's playing, like how do you describe that? And he said that's Holy Ghost time. And I love that. And
Yeah, I do too.
I try to keep that with me. I really do. And try to just be open. And it's funny too, like when the producers, they ask me, they're great too. And they say, so you have an interview, you gotta, what are you gonna talk about? Be prepared. There's things I don't even remember. I have no idea. And
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
because it's 4 years ago. It's because, like, again, like these things just kind of just organically happen. And I think that's really cool. And I think that's part of being an artist, and being open and trying to allow things to come through. And even on the day of filming, like you with Sean, I mean, it's just, you have a plan, but then you kind of let it go. And
Right.
I love that quote from Santana. And
I do
yeah,
too. Yeah.
that was pretty cool. Thanks so much. I'm
Yeah,
good.
let's stay in touch. I want to see the whole journey of the film. So that's great.
Definitely. Okay. Appreciate it very much. Okay. Have a great day.
You too.
Take care. Bye bye.